Think about the most stubborn person you've ever met. Someone who could never admit they were wrong. Maybe you've argued with them, maybe you've shown them proof, maybe you've watched them lose the argument completely and still refuse to change their mind. Why? Why can some people look directly at the truth and then reject it anyway? Most people think the answer is arrogance, but the real answer is much stranger. Because for the human brain, being wrong can feel surprisingly similar to being attacked. Imagine two people having the exact same argument, they see the same facts, they hear the same evidence, they witness the same reality, yet one of them changes their mind almost immediately, the other becomes angry, defensive, frustrated, sometimes even aggressive. At first glance, this seems irrational. If the evidence is clear, why not simply accept it? But human beings don't experience reality directly. We experience reality through filters. Every belief you have, every opinion, every value has been shaped by years of experiences. Your family, your friends, your culture, your successes, your failures over time. These beliefs become something larger. They become part of your identity. And that's where the problem begins, because once a belief becomes part of who you are, challenging that belief no longer feels like a disagreement. It feels personal. Imagine someone tells you that your favorite sports team isn't actually the best. You probably won't care very much. Now, imagine someone attacks a belief you've held for 20 years, a belief connected to your family, your upbringing, your values. Suddenly the situation feels very different because the brain isn't reacting to information anymore. It's reacting to a threat. Neuroscientists have discovered something fascinating. When deeply held beliefs are challenged, some of the same brain regions associated with physical threats become active. In other words, your brain can sometimes react to an attack on your beliefs as if it were an attack on you. This helps explain something strange. Why intelligent people sometimes become even more defensive than everyone else, why evidence alone rarely changes minds, and why some people would rather protect a false belief than face the discomfort of changing it. In the 1950s, a psychologist named Leon Festinger became interested in a strange question. Anais, what happens when people are forced to confront undeniable proof that they're wrong? So he studied a group that believed the world was about to end. The members of this small cult were absolutely convinced. They believed a great flood was coming. They believed a higher power had warned them, and they believed they would be rescued before disaster struck. Many of them made enormous sacrifices. Some quit their jobs. Some sold their possessions. Some abandoned relationships. Everything depended on one prediction, a specific date, a specific moment, and then the day arrived. They waited and waited and waited. Nothing happened. No flood, no rescue, no apocalypse. Reality had spoken. The prediction was completely wrong. So what happened next? Did they admit their mistake? Did they abandon the belief? Surprisingly, many of them became even more convinced. Instead of rejecting the prophecies, or as they created a new explanation, they convinced themselves that their faith had actually saved the world. The prediction failed, but the belief survived. Why? Because accepting reality would have been incredibly painful. It would mean admitting that all those sacrifices had been for nothing. And for the human mind, that can be harder than maintaining the illusion. This is what Leon Festinger called cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable feeling that appears when reality and belief collide. Imagine spending years believing something, then one day you discover it isn't true. Like, now your brain has a problem. It can either change the belief or explain away the evidence, and surprisingly, many people choose the second option, not because they're stupid, not because they're dishonest, but because consistency feels safer than uncertainty. The brain loves certainty, even when that certainty is wrong. That's why arguments often fail. Facts enter through the front door, but identity quietly pushes them back out. And the stronger the identity, the stronger the resistance. At this point, you might be thinking something. Surely intelligent people are less likely to fall into this trap, but reality suggests otherwise. In fact, Some of the most intelligent people can become the most difficult to convince. Why? Because intelligence doesn't just help people find the truth, it also helps people defend their beliefs. Imagine two people holding the same incorrect idea. One person has average reasoning skills, the other is highly intelligent. Who do you think will be better at defending that idea? The intelligent person. They can generate more arguments, more explanations, more justifications, more ways to explain away uncomfortable evidence. Psychologists sometimes call this motivated reasoning. We're not always reasoning to discover the truth. Sometimes we're reasoning to protect what we already believe. And once you notice this, you start seeing it everywhere. Politics, religion, sports, relationships, even science. The smarter someone is, the more sophisticated their defenses can become, which creates a strange paradox. Sometimes intelligence helps us learn, and sometimes intelligence helps us avoid learning. Now imagine this tendency multiplied by billions of people. That's essentially what social media has done. 100 years ago, most people were regularly exposed to different opinions, different communities, different conversations. Today, algorithms often show us more of what we already agree with, more of what we already like, more of what we already believe. And every time we see our own opinions repeated, they feel a little more true, a little more obvious, a little more certain. Over time, our beliefs become surrounded by reinforcement. And when someone challenges them, it can feel less like a discussion, Isarim, and more like an attack on reality itself. This is one reason modern arguments often feel impossible. Many people aren't just defending an idea, they're defending an entire worldview. A worldview that has been reinforced thousands of times. Interestingly, the people who grow the fastest aren't always the smartest. They aren't always the most talented, and they aren't always the most confident. Often, they're simply the people willing to say, I was wrong. Those three words sound small, but psychologically, they're incredibly powerful because every time you admit a mistake, you choose growth over comfort, reality over ego, truth over identity, and that's one of the hardest things a human being can do. The next time you meet someone who refuses to admit they're wrong, remember this. You may not be arguing with a person. You may be arguing with years of memories, years of experiences, years of identity. And sometimes the hardest thing a human being can let go of isn't a bad idea. It's the version of themselves that depends on it. Maybe that's why admitting we're wrong feels so difficult, because every belief we lose takes a small piece of who we thought we were. And every time we accept the truth anyway, we become someone new.